So are you trying to find out all you can about Abound by Marriott Vacations as a Vistana owner? And you're kind of wondering, should you opt out of Abound? Well, in this video, I'm going to go over if you should or shouldn't and the reasons why right after this. Hello and welcome to Destination Timeshare. I'm Jeremy. In today's video, we're going to be talking about if you should opt out of Abound by Marriott Vacations. And as we do, I'm going to be going over a number of questions and scenarios that should help you make that decision. And I also want to point out that I have a helper tool using Google Forms you can kind of use either during this video or afterwards, kind of flow through those questions and scenarios to help you determine if you should opt out of Abound. I will put a link to that in the description box below, as well as in the very first pinned comment. But we're just going to kind of walk through a number of different steps, and if you kind of answer yes to certain questions, well, that means you should not opt out of Abound by Marriott Vacations. Now, there'll be some other questions here that you might answer, and hey, it makes it obvious you might want to actually opt out. So let's kind of start going over my little kind of question and answer here as to if you should opt out of Abound by Marriott Vacations. So the first question you need to ask yourself, do you want to be able to reserve Marriott resorts without having to exchange through Interval International using your Vistana ownership? So if you own Sheraton Flex, Westin Flex, Westin Aventuras, or any of the weeks-based resorts that are in the Vistana system, if you want to use those to reserve Marriott resorts by converting to club points, well then you should remain in Abound by Marriott Vacations and don't opt out. Now the next one here, this one's actually going to kind of sound a little salesy, but do you want to future-proof your vacation ownership? And by future-proof, I kind of mean down the road, a lot of things change. Your travel patterns might change. Inventory, even in Vistana Signature Network, might change a little bit. Might be harder to book certain resorts using star options. So maybe you need to look at potentially using club points in Abound to make a reservation at a certain resort. So you might want to look at future-proofing your vacation options, keeping those options open to both Abound and the Vistana Signature Network using star options. So if you want to kind of make sure that you've got all your bases covered, all of the options are open to you, well then you want to stick around and stay in Abound by Marriott Vacations. Now the next one here, actually it only applies to Vistana voluntary owners. Those are people who do not own Westin Kierland Villas, Westin Ka'anapali Ocean Resort Villas North, Villas South, Westin St. John Virgin Grand section, or Sheraton Vistana Villages, the Bella and Key West phase. There's also Harborside Resort at Atlantis, but right now it actually isn't in Abound. So if you don't own any of those, well that means your membership in Vistana Signature Network or VSN is considered voluntary. So the question here is, for those owners, it will even be Sheraton Flex, Westin Flex, Westin Aventuras. It means, do you want to also still be able to use star options at the 8-month mark to book all of the different resorts in the Vistana Signature Network? So if you own Westin Flex and you want to be able to reserve a Sheraton resort, you don't want to opt out of Abound by Marriott Vacations. And if you own Sheraton Flex and you want to be able to go to, say, Hawaii and stay at the Westin Ka'anapali in Maui, well, you need to be able to use star options to do that. And that means you don't want to opt out of Abound. And I explained this in another video talking about what happens when you don't pay your club dues for Abound. And that also means you're essentially opting out. I'll put a link to it right up here. Kind of explains what happens when you opt out of Abound and don't pay those Abound club dues. So the next one here is more specifically kind of related to weeks-based ownership, but it can impact some home option-based ownership within the Flex programs. Do you want to be able to make reservations starting any day of the week up to 21 days? So if you're a week's owner and you want to be able to check in, say, on a Thursday, well, you need to be able to use star options at the 8-month mark, because most weeks-based ownerships, you can only make your reservations for Friday, Saturday, or Sunday check-in. And for those Flex owners, well, you can actually only reserve up to 14 days in those Flex ownerships. If you want to be able to reserve up to 21 days, well, you don't want to opt out of Abound. So it all comes down here to the ability to use star options to make reservations, and if you're a voluntary owner, you don't want to opt out of Abound by Marriott Vacations, because guess what? You're also essentially opting out of the VSN Vistana Signature Network and the ability to use star options. So the next question here is, do you ever want to use Interval International to exchange into other Vistana resorts or even Marriott Vacation Club properties? And the reason this is an important one is because there's fees usually attached to making those types of transactions. Currently $164 exchange fee to trade Vistana to Marriott or Vistana to Vistana. And well, if you're going to be doing that in the future, those fees actually go away with Abound membership. You also get your membership fee included in Interval International when you're in Abound. Just 1 or 2 trades a year, and that membership fee would have been more than what you paid in the past for those individual transactions, because in Abound all those transaction fees actually go away. $0 exchange fees, banking fees go away, cancellation fees go away, adding guest names to a reservation, that also goes away. So there's a number of different fees. I'm not going to cover them all here. I've covered them before in some previous videos as well. So check out some of my other Abound videos. I'll put a link to the entire playlist right up there. So just consider that if you want to use Interval International to make exchanges, well, don't opt out of Abound by Marriott Vacations. Now we're going to talk about who is actually a good candidate. I don't want to make this sound all rosy. Abound is great, which personally I kind of do actually believe that myself. Works out pretty well for us, but I know it's not going to work out for everybody. So who might be a candidate to actually opt out of Abound? So the first one might be here if you own a weeks-based ownership, or you actually own home options in one of those single site ownerships, whether it be Westin St. John, some of those people actually have home options, or whether it be the Westin Nanea, where you have home options as well, and you're only using exactly what you own. So you own a week at a specific resort, and you book your week checking in on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday every year in the view you own, in the season you own, in the unit size you own, and you're doing that at the 12-month mark. Well, it might actually be quite beneficial to just opt out of Abound and not have to pay that extra fee year after year after year. And also here, if you have home option ownership in, say, Westin Flex, Sheraton Flex, or Westin Aventuras, and you're okay just reserving the resorts within your home system. So if it's Sheraton Flex, there's, I believe, 9 resorts that you can book, 9 Sheraton resorts, or the Vistana Beach Club. Well, if you're okay just booking those 9 resorts within your home option ownership, well, then that might work out well for you to actually opt out of Abound. The same is true for Westin Flex. If you're okay just reserving the 8 resorts in the Westin Flex ownership, then hey, it works out great for you as well. You might not be a candidate for Abound. So just keep in mind here though, you won't be able to bank those leftover home options. You have to either use them or lose them every year. I'm actually kind of interested to know, are you considering opting out, or are you for sure staying in Abound by Marriott Vacations? Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Really does help out these videos. And if you want to see another video about Abound by Marriott Vacations, well, I'll put a link to one right up here. So be sure to check that out after you've finished watching this video. Thanks for watching. And until next time, remember, the best destination is always a timeshare.